Karma. The word karma is defined as the totality of a person's actions and conduct during successive incarnations regarded as casually influencing his or her destiny. For those of us that are not philosophers or English majors, this definition is long-winded and complex. So, allow me to give you my own definition of karma.
We have been looking forward to this rematch for a very long time, so we're not really worried about it.
Yeah, they're European.
Okay.
Booming and Sandstorm.
They might be able to get things done. And here where Boomy and Sandstorm pick it up. Learn as much as you can.
But now we're at a point here where the stocks are even. Here is going to try to do it with these boots to get them off stage, but the weapons.
That's number 4 for Blaze throughout the set. He is consistently
on the dodge, and that's going to make it so much tougher. That down stick from Kai.
This moment of karma, while being absolutely hilarious, also came with some deeper implications which hit me as I sat in the audience watching the conclusion of this set. Now, some of you might be having different reactions to this clip. For example, why did Boomy say something like that? He must be a racist. Hashtag cancelled. Okay, that one was kind of a joke, but if you're somehow actually thinking that, please be informed that European is not a race. However, part of that reaction holds some weight to it. Why did Boomy say something like that? It's a question that newer players of the Brawlhalla community might be asking in response to that clip, and it's not hard to understand why. Without knowing the proper context behind him saying this, it seems rather out of pocket for Boomy. To fully understand what's going on here, we need to go back to the beginning. The year is 2016. Brawlhalla, being a fairly new fighting game, had a small but growing esports scene. Blue Mammoth Games, the creators of Brawlhalla, were attempting to find a way to pump up the scene and make it a huge success. They knew that while online tournaments were good, it was limited in the fact that different regions could not play with each other and would have to be separated due to connection issues. The solution? The Brawlhalla World Championship, which would later go on to be known as the Brawlhalla Championship Expo. This tournament would be Brawlhalla's first official LAN event, where players from every region could compete with one another for a massive prize pool of $50,000. Massive for the time, that is. With this event, Blue Mammoth was hoping to accelerate Brawlhalla's growth with a large turnout. This wasn't a guaranteed success, however, so they were hoping to hit it big. And hit it big, they did. The competitors were fierce, the crowds were large, the gameplay was... Okay, I'll be honest, the gameplay needed some polishing, but nevertheless, Brawlhalla's first LAN event was a success. Even Matt Woomer, the CEO of Blue Mammoth, was there to congratulate the victors, a privilege only known by pros back when Matt actually cared about the game. Speaking of the victors, the 1v1 bracket was easily cleared by LDZ, a popular North American pro who won without losing a set. The victors of the 2v2 bracket, on the other hand, were Europe's Twilight and Daiku. However, this match was far from a blowout, as the Europeans narrowly won 3-2 following a bracket reset by LDZ and Stevenator. Now, why do I put such emphasis on the regions of the victors? Well, as the game began to progress following this tournament, there was a noticeable pattern in the victors of LAN tournaments. What do I mean? BCX 2017. 1v1 victor, LDZ, North American. 2v2 victors, Boomy and Remy, North American. BCX 2018. 1v1 victor, Sandstorm, North American. 2v2 victors, Adimestic and Cake, European. BCX 2019. 1v1 victor, Sandstorm, North American. 2v2 victors, Sandstorm and Boomy, North American. Of course, there were other LANs throughout these couple of years besides BCX, but most of the victors were North American in those, even in the ones hosted in Europe. Obviously, the LAN tournaments stopped for a while after 2019 thanks to a tiny virus outbreak, but you get the point. An overwhelming majority of LAN tournaments were dominated by North America. Despite what you may believe, this actually didn't come as a shock to most people on the scene. To understand why this is, we need to talk about regional dominance in gaming. Many games with popular esports scenes are often controlled largely by a particular region. This can often be due to how many people play that particular game in a region. More players will create more top talent, who can play against each other to continue pushing the boundaries of the game. Compare that to a region with underrepresentation in a game. With less players, there will be less of a chance for top talent to appear there, and making it harder for those few top players in that region to improve along with the rest. Then, when it's time for the regions to collide in a LAN event, the underpopulated regions are swept by the juggernauts. This can be seen in games such as Counter-Strike, which is dominated by the European scene, or League of Legends, where South Korean teams are often deemed to be the greatest. For fighting games such as Super Smash Bros., the region with the most power is usually North America. Games about beating other people up being popular in America? Who would have thought? So when Brawlhalla, a fighting game with similarities to Smash, began to have a larger esports scene, it was no shock that North America was the top dog. With all of that explained, let's return to where we left off in the timeline, 2020. A year of many things, but not among them were LAN events. To accommodate for the lockdown and inability to host LAN events, Blue Mammoth made every tournament online, including BCX. This meant that each region would have its own bracket, rather than being mixed into one giant bracket. With no LAN tournaments for the foreseeable future, and with so many people stuck at home playing video games, this was a different region's chance to finally bridge the gap between them and North America. So, 2020 came and went with no LANs, and so did 2021. All the while, every region improved on their skills. Some new pros came, while some old pros went, but one thing was for certain. Everyone was waiting for LAN to make its grand return. Finally, in 2022, BCX was announced to come back as an in-person event. This was it. The chance for a different region to finally overthrow their North American suppressors. And while every region had improved, there was one player that had risen to the top. Godly.
Because the dart, he was still caught really high in the air. Is he gonna get caught? That is the end of the tournament.
He's looking for it. Godly is just not even touching the ball. And that's it. Godly in the reset. Final moments of this tournament.
Oh, what he did? He went for the ready catch of neutral sync. Okay,
He was in position. Oh, and that's it, ladies and gentlemen. It's over.
Go against each other on arm. Godly goes for the weapon. Weapon spell comes through.
Oh, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. The tournament is over.
During the lockdown, Godly had taken over Europe as its best player. Through that time, he proved himself capable of giving North America a run for its money. More than anything, the players of Europe were praying that he would be the one to finally take a BCX 1v1 championship from North America, who had won all of the BCX 1v1 tournaments thus far. And so, with the 2v2 bracket already being taken by North American team Boomy and Snowy, all eyes were on Godly as he entered grand finals on the loser side against Impala, a North American pro. It all came down to this. Even though he wasn't favored going into this match, surely, just surely, he would find a way to win. He was Godly after all, one of, if not the best player that Europe had ever seen. Impala was good, but Godly just had to win, right? Yes, of course he will. He's gonna do it for Europe. Godly's gonna win.
For Impala, but it's a dare to crown our new world champion. NA's taking home another gold, this time in the hands of...
As someone's girlfriend screams bloody murder, and Impala lifts up his trophy, the curtains closed on Europe's dream of taking the coveted BCX 1v1 winner title. But then, something changed. A change that most people would have never saw coming until it happened. A region that had gone overlooked throughout Brawlhalla's lifespan had just awoken. Going into 2023, this region would ensure that nobody would ever underestimate their power again. And it all started with Vector. The Spring Royale, which is an invitational LAN of 8 players from all different regions, was dominated by a player known as Use. His region? South America. He beat some of the world's best players, including Godly, while using Vector. Now Vector was a pick that nobody was expecting to actually win, but as fate would have it, he won. But of course, this was just one Royale. Perhaps it was just a fluke. Maybe the other pros weren't ready for such a bizarre pick, and were unable to solve it before Yuz took the crown. Fast forward to DreamHack Dallas, and Yuz wins once again with his Vector. But it seemed like his playstyle was getting closer to being solved, with Luna getting a bracket reset before losing to Yuz in the Grand Finals. This seemed to be further solidified going into the Summer Royale, as Yuz did not qualify for the South American spot. Along with this, the GOAT of Brawlhalla, Sandstorm, qualified for the Royale to jumpstart his grand return to the game after retiring back in 2022. The last Royale had a strange ending, but this time there would be a normal result. Right?
To get back to the stage right away. Look at him go! Dealing recovery and kinda.
Gosh, Kinda didn't even barely took any damage on that stock.
Yeah, okay. And there's pretty far.
Oh, you knew it was gonna happen. We were all waiting for it, and it just totally happened.
How do you stop Sarah would do it? Anything would do it here. Kinda's just gonna get one good win.
Oh, hail the new king!
Another South American pro, Kaina, stole the Royale away with a clean sweep. Just like Yuz had done a few months prior, Kaina destroyed Godly from the winner's side of the bracket to claim victory. So in just 2 Royales, South America had gone from a region that no one took seriously to a region that just produced 2 monsters that were tearing through the rest of the world's top talent. Where exactly did these 2 come from? Well, let's start with Kaina. Kaina had already been one of the best South American players for a while, and had some great showings at LANs. You may remember him from BCX 2022, when Stingray pulled one of the greatest clutches in 1v1 history on him. He'd won many of the South American major tournaments, and even when he didn't win, he was never too far behind first. While he had gone through many different characters throughout his years of playing, it seemed that Axe was one of his best weapons. So, after seeing Axe rise in the meta and some buffs to Hammer, Kaina showed the world what Taros could do. Now, let's talk about Yuz. If you're not a South American player, you'd be forgiven for not knowing who he was prior to the 2023 Spring Royale. Even I had no idea who he was until then. Don't get me wrong, it's not because Yuz wasn't a good player until the Royale. The reason his talent went unrecognized, at least for most players, was because no matter how far he got in South American tournaments, he was too often defeated by one of a few players. Kaina, Lorez, Wes, Fiend, and Power Ranger. These 5 players were recognized as the best of South America. Time after time, tourney after tourney, Yuz found himself getting so close to the end, only to fall short to the aforementioned players. Seriously, go look at his placements on start.gg throughout his career. The sheer amount of 2nd and 3rd place finishes thanks to one of these other pros will astound you. Still, as he played the game more, he began to pick up wins in lots of smaller tournaments, and would begin to place highly in both major online and LAN tournaments. But with no big win, he was still unknown to most players. This would all change once he unleashed his unexpected pick of Vector onto the world. So now that we've gone over the background of our 2 Brazilian superstars, let's go back to talking about the Royales. Now, something I ought to mention is that the final Royale of 2023, the Autumn Royale, was also conquered by the South American player Lorez. While he wasn't as dominant as Yuz and Kaina would go on to be, it's definitely worth mentioning considering it meant that South America won 3 out of the 4 yearly Royales. It's also a bit funny because in all 3 of those Royales, Godly would lose in Grand Finals to the South Americans. I mean, I don't think it's funny for Godly, but it is for us. If there was any doubt that this region had become a force to be reckoned with, it was now gone. However, immediately following the Autumn Royale was BCX. The Royales were important, sure, but they were limited to a select group of 8 players. BCX was open to any player from any region. Well, except for Australia, but that's a story for another day. This would be the true test for South America. Throughout the lifespan of Brawlhalla, North America had never been defeated in 1v1s, and only beaten twice in 2v2s. The question was, did South America have the chops to take down the reigning champs? The 2v2 bracket saw a surprising twist. The first cross-regional team of Zen and Godly would defeat Blaze and Acno, who were considered to be the best 2v2 players in Europe with barely any time to practice together. With no South American representation with the 2v2 winners, it was time for the South Americans remaining in the 1v1 bracket to step it up. And that's exactly what they did.
Kinda gets disarmed. There's the weapon pickup. It's the hammer, but Sandstorm disarmed himself. Going for the big play. Now he's got another set of boots. Stomp, side air.
Teros difference, hammer difference.
Neutralite, the variation, always keeping it
Use!
guessing. Does
Someone
turn
stop
it around?
this man!
Keeps it going.
Get back to the wall.
Sidelight Nair again, and the turnaround side air, and that's gonna be a KO.
Struggling to get back down onto the ground.
Oh! His name is Use, but you might have to change that Y for an L for lose, and not like the opposite of win, but because he's lighting up like a light. I really hope lose is light in Portuguese. It is in Spanish, so sorry if I'm being ignorant here.
And just like that, it was grand finals. Not one, but two South American players had reached the end. Kaina and Use. Kaina, while putting up a great fight with his Teros on the loser's side, would ultimately be destroyed by Use with Jaeun. Nobody could defeat Use's greatsword, nor could anyone besides Use defeat Kaina's Teros, considering the person who sent Kaina into the loser's bracket in the first place was Use. In the process, they left both North America and Europe in disbelief. This was especially so for the North Americans, who were entirely eliminated before either of the other two major regions. Even though North America had gotten a piece of victory in 2v2s, the message was clear. The King region had finally been dethroned. How did this happen? The answer is actually rather simple. It had to happen someday. I don't believe there's any secret tech or anything like some players have speculated. With so many people that play Brawlhalla at a top level, and with more players getting access to play Brawlhalla from the more underpopulated regions like South America, there was no way that North America could hold on to their dominance forever. But now, with Brawlhalla Esports 2024 just getting underway, the questions are endless. Will South America be able to defend their title? Will North America steal it back? Will Europe surpass them both and give themselves their first 1v1 title? Will North American gameplay stop looking like a dance contest? Will I ever stop asking questions? In due time, they will be answered. But in the meantime, that is the story of the fall of North American Brawlhalla. Thank you for watching.